some of the talking out.
Yes. Hi everybody, and welcome back if you are new, and if you've been with me for a while. I have two guest DPers today. We have Dom and her mother, June. June is an English expat living in South Africa, and Dom is a South African expat that is now an American citizen. So we thought it would be fun. We're down at the lake. So a lot of you know I'm going to be at the lake today. We're down at the lake, and as you can see, we have our DP setup going. I've been DPing, most of you know, for almost a year now. And June comes over and visits in the summer. And so I got her into DPing a couple months ago, and Dom picked it up as well. And so this is what our lake weekend looks like. I know a lot of you would think it looks pretty good. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over just some of the cultural differences, the way we say some different words. We're just going to have we're going to sit and have a little gossip and diamond paint this afternoon. So, yeah. It's basically what it is. Dom is working on a Christmas pattern, and June is working on horses.
Horses. Yeah.
Horses? Yeah, you can show them.
Two horse faces.
So there's Dom's Christmas with the stocking over here. So she's doing a lot of really good progress on hers, and hers is round.
And that is square, and it's horses.
There you go.
Head.
And I am working on my owl that I had put aside a couple months ago because it was popping. So I decided to come back, and there's that one. I'm going to attempt to try this. So I worked up a section with the checkerboard pattern. So yeah, here's what we're going to do today. Okay, ladies, so I'm going to say a word, and you're going to tell me how you pronounce it. Are you ready?
This is in the various countries.
Yes. So I say basil.
It's basil. I know it's basil because my brother's name is Basil.
So we've got basil and basil, and then I say herb.
Herb. Herb. You sound the H. Herb.
The H, not the H.
You don't say H, you say...
No, I know, but that was...
We say H. Some people
It's
here say
H.
H.
It's H. Yeah.
Yeah. I say tomato.
Tomato.
I say fertile.
Fertile.
What's that?
Fertile.
Fertile.
My mother says fertile too.
Yes, I do. Fertile.
I say laboratory.
Laboratory.
I say garage.
Garage.
Garage. No, I want to tell you, in some parts of England, they pronounce it garage.
They do say garage.
Yeah, they say garage in England.
We say...
I say garage. And what do you
You
say?
sound like
I
such
say
a
garage.
They
Garage.
They
Garage.
not
And I
garage.
say garage.
Yeah, I make the second
say
G with a J sound.
Garage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You do say garage sometimes.
Do
But-
I?
Yeah, you do. But it is... The way we were raised in South Africa is garage. We say
Yeah.
garage.
Yeah.
I say advertisement.
Advertisement.
I say premiere.
Premier.
Sounds much more French, which it is. Let's see. I say aluminum.
Aluminium is correct.
No, you can't say someone
You
else.
know, the Americans have got a very funny...
You can't say it's
pronunciation.
funny just because it's different. It's just how they...
It's just funny. It's
Well.
funny to me.
I think the Americans are the only ones that say aluminum. I think everybody else says aluminium.
I have never been as divided by common language as I was coming over here. I'd say something and people would know what the hell I was talking about.
Well, exactly.
Um,
It's like when you go in the supermarket in South Africa or England, you ask one of the helpers, where do I get a trolley? So the first time I went into a shop in America, when I first arrived, 19 years ago, and I said, do you have some trolleys? And they said, what? You call them carts.
Yeah, so a trolley is a motor car, like a train, old train motor cars.
Yeah,
That's
we
a
also,
trolley.
yeah, yes.
Yeah.
So we use that word interchangeably in South Africa. But here, a trolley here is you jump on a trolley and go to the next
Yeah,
station.
that's right.
Whereas
And
we would-
also in London, you
Yeah.
get on a trolley.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And in South Africa, a trolley is a shopping trolley when you go to the supermarket.
yes.
Because we don't really have trolleys in South Africa. We have the public train system is a different kind
Oh,
of,
yes, yes. A
Right, so
trolley
that's-
is one who goes on rails.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. So we say ballet.
yeah, I say ballet too, but
Valet. That's somebody who drives your car around.
No. No, ballet, like a dance.
ballet. We say ballet
Oh, ballet.
too.
Dance.
Yeah.
Now some
Yeah,
people
so
here
ballet.
say ballet.
Yeah, ballet.
Yeah.
Ballet is fine. That's what I say.
Okay.
I used to do ballet classes. Yes.
And of course, part of this too is the Texas accent on things. You know, of course, is different than other parts of the country.
Yeah.
Even
that's
other
right.
southern parts of the country. Okay, so I say oregano.
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 It's oregano. It actually says it on the bottle. Oregano. It has an M. Oregano.
Does it really?
It has an M. So when you go to the store and you buy that herb, it says oregano. So when I came here and people would talk about oregano, I'm like, what the hell is that? I've never cooked with that. And they were like, it's this. No, it's not. Well, it looks the same. No, that's oregano.
Well, and I think I say cilantro, and you guys call it
We call well, I call
coriander.
it is coriander. Yeah, in South Africa, but I call it cilantro now because
Mhm.
I'm a Texan.
What is
now.
it here?
Coriander
Coriander.
is cilantro. Here.
Cilantro.
Cilantro is, yeah, and it's actually best fresh, not bought, purchased in a dried bottle like we would cilantro.
Yes.
Like coriander you can buy in the store, like you would dried parsley and stuff. Here you
So
buy
why
cilantro.
is the name so much different?
I think maybe ours is more of the Hispanic
Oh.
influence on it.
Yeah.
If I had to make a guess.
Yeah, could be. Yeah.
I preferred actually fresh since I've been eating it here. It is a much better, well, anything fresh is nice.
Mhm.
So,
Well, and I say eggplant.
zucchini.
And see, zucchini is something different. I think you call it an aubergine.
Oh, eggplant,
Eggplant.
aubergine. Yeah, that's right. It is. Yeah.
And then,
So what's zucchini then, Ron?
It's a baby marrow.
Oh, you're right.
oh,
Which
what?
we would call a green squash.
Yeah.
Green squash,
baby.
there's a baby marrow
zucchini
is
squash.
a zucchini squash. And then we don't get yellow squash. Like, you know, you get the yellow
Mhm.
squash. We don't get yellow squash. You
I think that's
can't-
an American thing.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And so, Mum, like, what's this? Whenever I served it, and I said, that's yellow squash. What's yellow squash? And she
You're
loves it.
eating it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we call butternut squash something different, don't you?
No,
Butternut. We just call
Butternut.
it butternut. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so what's a robot?
Robots are traffic lights.
Robots are the regular green driving your car when you stop. It's a robot. It's a signal here, a traffic signal or a light.
That's in America, but in South Africa and England, it's traffic lights.
Okay, and if I call it an 18-wheeler.
A what?
An 18-wheeler? The large trucks
The
that
big
move.
lorry, you know the big lorries we drive past?
18-wheeler.
Uh-huh.
The big lorries we drive past that I don't like to
Yeah.
drive past. So those are huge.
18-wheeler. I suppose we would do the same.
No,
I've
we
never
don't.
come
It's
across
called a
it.
lorry. Anything that is a transportation large vehicle is called a lorry in South Africa. Anything that transports something, so whether it's transporting
I suppose
fuel
so.
or this,
Yes,
and you
yes,
have seen
yes,
them because
yes.
they have those 18-wheelers that deliver all of the Coca-Colas and the this and the beer trucks.
Yes,
and,
yes, 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 yes.
So we call them, in South Africa they call it a lorry. And
Everything that's really got an open back and wheels all at the bottom and just the cab is closed, we would call a lorry.
or even open.
And you
Open.
call the small ones, you call it a truck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
And
they
we
have,
call it a lorry.
everything's a lorry.
Yeah,
No,
that's
the,
right.
the small ones that they call a truck here, we call a bakkie.
In South
Yeah,
Africa,
so
yes.
if it's the
yes.
open back like we've seen here, the personal vehicles people drive, we call that a bakkie. Over here it's called a pickup truck. The large trucks
Yes,
close
yes,
to
yes,
open,
yes,
they transport
yes,
any
yes.
kind of mass volume quantity of stuff. We call a lorry over in South Africa, and here they call it an 18-wheeler.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, which is makes sense.
Yeah.
It has 18 wheels. I have counted them.
So I came to your house and I asked for a Coke.
That is so
Coca-Cola.
silly. No,
No,
you're trying to guess
you
the
call it
I call it
Africa-
soda.
a Coke.
Yes, yes. In America, all those cool drinks in tins are called sodas. In America,
They're all called Cokes or sodas.
Yeah, that's a
That's
Texas.
the whole
The
thing.
Coke is a Texas thing.
So if somebody says I want a
Oh.
Coke, in America here, you would say what kind do you want? If somebody says to you in South Africa, I want a Coke,
you
you
get
bring
a
them a
Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola.
That's right. Yes.
We call those cool drinks.
Yes.
You say, do you want a fizzy cool drink or do you want a regular cool
yeah,
drink?
yeah,
It's a
yeah,
cool drink.
That's right. Yeah.
It's a cool drink,
A cool drink.
which is cool, and it's a drink. Do you want a fizzy one or not? Fizzy is a soda or a Coke.
Okay.
And then but if we wanted to offer somebody a fizzy drink, we would say, do you want a Sprite? Do you want a Coke? Do you want a Fanta?
Yes.
Gotcha.
We would
yes,
be real
yes.
specific about it. But if somebody said, I want a Coke, I'd say, I don't have Coke. I've got Fanta though. I've got a root beer. I've got a
Okay.
yeah.
Now I call my grandparents Grandma and Grandpa, or Nana and Pappy, or Nana and Papa,
Mima.
Mima.
And
Do you know what Mima is?
in South Africa?
Do you know what Mima is? Somebody says to you, my Mima or my Papa. Do you know what that means?
No.
Neither did I. I do now.
But in South Africa, a lot of people use the Afrikaans name, which is Omar for the granny and Opa for the grandpa.
So my
We
friend.
use Nana and Grandpa in South
Yeah.
Africa too.
Yes.
To be fair, we use Nana and Grandpa, so it's the English
Yeah, it's
version.
just a choice. Yeah.
Yeah, so my friend Jacqueline, she's Polish, and she has an Opa and a Jaju. And yeah, so it depends too where you're at and what your history, like your family history is a lot of times.
Yeah.
So yeah, it makes a big difference. But in the
Yeah.
South, we use Nana and Pappy and Grandma and Grandpa, Granny and Papa.
But the reason I chose to be called Omar in South Africa, because I'm not Afrikaans, I'm English. The reason I chose Omar was I was too young to be called a granny, and it didn't hurt me as much to hear the Afrikaans name Omar. So that's why I chose it. And all my children and grandchildren call me Omar. Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of grandmothers here, younger grandmothers, will use like Mimi, or something.
So what is that?
A Mimi.
Yeah.
It's like it tends to be a younger grandmother
Oh,
that maybe
okay.
doesn't want to be called Grandma or Granny.
Oh, I see.
So just like you chose
yes,
Opa.
Yes. Hi. It's a lot to learn for people moving to America. I think, don't you?
I think it can be. I think anywhere that you move is going to be even between like English speaking countries. It's a lot of different cultural, like you miss a lot because you don't know
Yeah.
like the background, and you miss a lot of the references like for TV shows and things like that people
Yes.
make in pop culture.
Yes.
Yeah, if you don't have context and you don't really know the genesis of something, it's very hard to catch on to a conversation.
Mhm.
You have to listen twice as hard.
Yeah.
There are many things that are different.
So, what was the biggest shock for you, Dom, when you moved to the U.S.?
I could pick a few. So the one was driving on the other side of the road, and it took quite a while for me to figure that out or become familiar with it. I mean, you're on the correct side of the road, but you forget where you can turn, where you can't. The other one in driving in general is you can turn right on red. You can't turn right on red in South Africa. So of course I had an unbelievable amount of frustrated drivers behind me for a period of time. Well, I figured that out. And then you driving on the other side of the road, you're not allowed to edge forward at an intersection where you're at the traffic signals or robots.
Mm-hmm.
We inch forward in South Africa. You're not allowed to here. And then the biggest one, or funniest one of all, was I got to a gas station and honked my horn 15 times and nobody came out, and it really annoyed the hell out of me until some guy stuck his head up and was like, "What's up?" And I said, "Well, you going to send your guy to come pump my gas?" And he was, "No, we've been self-service for
Well,
a while."
no, to pump my petrol.
Yeah.
You
Well,
call it gas here.
yeah.
Petrol.
So, many different. I don't have a biggest one. I have contextual, relative. Banking was a shock. It's quite behind in the US. Electronic banking and the security and how you don't own your own money. You can't call the bank up and say, "Please stop payment on a check," as easily as you can in South Africa. You've got to. It's like an act of Congress. So banking's that. Cell phone technology. America's behind in that. Just many different things, but a lot of pleasant surprises too, where just living is different. You're not looking over your shoulder. You can go to bed at night and feel safe. Someone's not going to jump over your wall or hold you up at gunpoint, or as an everyday occurrence. I know it happens here. I'm not naive, but it doesn't happen nearly at the volume that it happens over there. So, but there's still things 19 years later that I don't follow on in a conversation because somebody will coin a phrase and I'll be like, "What the hell is that? Where did that come from?" Putting something in the boot of your car.
Yeah.
It's like, what's a boot?
Yeah.
A boot, actually, in this country, in car terms, is putting on a locking device that you can't drive your car.
Right. Yeah, around the tire.
Then you know you've been.
Is that called a boot?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
put a police or whoever it is will come
Oh,
and put
really?
a lock on your car on your wheel and you can't drive it. So it's a boot on your car. Whereas a boot for us is the
Oh.
trunk.
I
Yeah.
didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. What's this age?
So you say to somebody a boot in America, and they're like, "Oh, you carry your own boot?" It's like, what are you talking about? Don't the police carry those, or the tow truck companies carry those? No, it's attached to the back of my car. It's part of the body of the car. And then you realise, no, it's the trunk. The hood, we don't call it the hood. We call it a bonnet.
And bonnet is a
Yeah.
hat.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
the bonnet. Won't you raise the bonnet of the car so I can check the engine? Like, what? Yeah, the bonnet.
So what do you call it?
The
Yeah.
hood.
The what? A bonnet.
No.
The hood.
Oh, the hood. Yes,
Mhm.
yes, that's right.
Yeah, it's a hood here. And then you have the hood and the trunk. And the driver's side and the passenger side.
We have manual and automatic, and over here they have a stick shift.
Yeah.
Stick shift.
So when we say, "Hey, is your car manual or automatic?" That over here they'd say, "Oh, that's a stick shift." I'd be like, "What the
Which
hell
is the same thing as a manual.
Yeah.
We just say a stick.
I have heard in the past, years ago. My mother once said she couldn't drive a car that had a stick, and I didn't know then, even at a young age, what she was talking about. But
Well,
it is automatic. What do we say? Automatic.
The stick is manual.
Yeah. Okay, manual. Yes.
Yeah.
So June, when you come over, what's one of the things that you look forward to every year when you come over that's different, or like something you can't get?
Something I can't get at home.
Mm-hmm.
Dom's cooking. Well, if I be honest, that's just what
There
I
you
look
have
forward
it.
to.
Now we're hearing the truth. And she doesn't care if you say coriander, oregano, just serve it hot and nice and on my plate.
No,
tell me
what
whatever you
I
want.
look
Yeah, just
forward
not late
to
for dinner,
Not
right?
late for dinner. Exactly.
because I'm a quilter, I look forward to all the facilities you have here for buying really good pure cotton fabric to do my sewing, and the fact that America is coupon land. I've never been anywhere in the world where
They pay
you
you to shop.
collect coupons. In fact, I've read somewhere that Americans can buy a special container thing like a purse that takes only coupons, and that's what they collect, and they shop on coupons.
Oh yeah, there are shows that are
And
dedicated to that.
at home, that doesn't happen. Doesn't happen. So I look forward to that. And also, because I come to miss the winter at home, and I come here for this American summer, that's what I look forward to, being warm instead of cold. I came twice in winter and had Christmas here, and I said never again. Woo!
And it's not even that cold here compared
Oh,
to
definitely.
other places.
Yeah. It's,
Yeah, we thought she was here for my cooking.
I'm telling you. She just comes for the heat
She comes for the heat and the coupons. Now
Yeah.
we know.
and the fabric.
Yeah, and the fabric.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think we have such a greater population here, which drives options and it drives
Oh, and I
competitiveness.
forgot
and-
one of the big things. My daughter is the queen of eBay and buying online.
Mm.
So I have a list of things you can buy online, which is a lot cheaper than retail. So we have a lot of fun ordering that. That's great.
Well, and we don't have the customs charges here
No, that's right.
like you guys get
Yeah.
at home. So I know, you both have told me that you have purchased a lot of diamond paintings to take back
Oy.
Yeah,
with you so that you don't have to pay customs.
exactly. And also buying online here, it's a lot cheaper than...
And it's safer because you're never sure
Yeah.
if stuff will show up in South Africa because of the struggle with corruption and various other things in and the unreliable postal
And the
services.
postage system is not so good
Yeah.
at the moment. There's a lot of people stealing the post before it even gets to you, which is sad.
Yeah. And the options are a lot less over there because I think there's some diamond painting starting to take off. But because the demand isn't there, they are running at
Well, yes.
500, 600, 700% of what the cost is for you
Yes.
to participate. So it's hard for a new interest, craft, hobby, whatever, to take off because then it's a limited audience that can participate. Whereas here you can get into it for $20 and try it. If you don't like it, it's $20.
Right.
You can spend a little more buying all the accessories and the light pad, but you can get into it for $20 to test it. Over there, it would cost you 10 to 12 times that price. just on exchange rate, and then markup.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So Mum's going to take some over there, and she's going to start
Well, I
driving
hope
some
we
interest.
get the family to form a group and then we can do it all together.
The girls, I said to Mum, this will be nice quality time, you know. There's only so many meals you can go out and sit and talk nonsense. If you've got something like this with a common interest, it's quality hangout time.
Yeah, so you both spent a lot of your summer together doing diamond painting, both here and at the kitchen table at home.
Yes.
And then, you know, June has 7 children total. 5 girls? Is that right? And 3 boys?
Two
boys?
No, five girls and 2 boys.
2
yes.
boys, yeah. So,
And Dom is the youngest.
and we won't say how old she is.
I'm 14, I just look old. I've had a rough life.
We don't tell women's ages unless they really want to. So,
We'll stick with 14.
but there's what, 3 of your girls live there?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Lulu, Mary, and Sandy, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then a sister in the UK.
The eldest one, Rose, yes, she lives in the UK. And her children, which are my grandchildren, that also, that's 3 of them in the UK.
All of Sandy's kids live there, which is another 4 kids, and then their
Yeah.
offspring.
Yeah.
And then a brother in the Isle of Man and a brother in Cape Town.
And a brother not in Cape Town, a brother in Seychelles.
No, I have a brother in Cape
Oh,
Town.
you have,
I have
yes,
a brother
yes,
in
yes,
the Isle of
yes.
Man. You have a brother in the Seychelles.
Yeah.
Let's just call it what it is. My mum and dad had 7 children. There are 16 nephews and nieces. There are rapidly approaching 14, 15 great nephews and nieces. If we have a family gathering just with their offspring, we're probably 55 plus people.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's a dynasty.
Everybody needs a dynasty.
We're standing room.
Oh, there you go.
There's
you don't
another word.
pronounce that.
Yeah. Yeah, you say dynasty and I say dynasty.
Yeah.
So you grew up in what part of England?
I was born in the county of Surrey, which is next to the county of Middlesex. So I
So
spent
south.
most of the time in the county of Middlesex because my parents moved from Surrey. And both those places are around the River Thames. So I was never far from the River Thames. And it's just the same as any village in England or little town. Yeah. But then my husband grew up in Yorkshire,
Which is in the north.
which is in the north. And Middlesex and Surrey is south of London. Yeah.
He's from farming family.
Yes.
They were tenants on a farm, and my father's one of 12. And that's pardon?
Talk just a little bit louder.
Oh, Dad's one of 12, and while Mum and Dad were both born and raised in the UK, they didn't meet in the UK,
Oh, I didn't know that.
We
Yeah.
met in Tanganyika.
which is now Tanzania in East Africa.
Or Tanzania, as we Americans
Ah.
know it.
Tanzania.
Here we go.
So June had posted on Facebook a couple days ago. She put this map of Africa because a lot of people don't realize Africa is a continent. It's not a country. And so I was looking at it really intensely, and I did really well in geography. But even the years that I've been out of school, a lot of those countries' names have changed, and so we were talking about that last night about how like Rhodesia
Is now Zimbabwe.
is now Zimbabwe. And then, there were some other countries that I'd never heard of before that are new.
Tanganyika.
Yeah,
where that
Tanganyika.
is now Tanzania.
Yeah.
Or whatever you
Yeah,
call it.
and you call it what?
Tanzania.
Tanzania. And we've always learned it as Tanzania.
Yeah. Yeah.
And some different ones like that. So I thought that was really interesting. Just, we don't get, or at least here in Texas, I don't feel like we got a lot of African history, and we did a lot of European. We don't get a lot of like the Asian countries, Japan, China. Really, the only time we get that kind of geography and history is when they overlap. So, like during the wars, World War I, World War II. But I would say we learned mostly American, European, a little bit of like South American, and that maybe just because we're in Texas.
Right.
And then a lot of Texas history, because Texas is awesome.
Everything's bigger and better. Never mind.
Yeah.
Well, my understanding of Texas is, according to Texans, Texas is bigger and better than anywhere else.
Pretty much.
Only a Texan would say that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of true.
And because they're so special, they have now developed their own flag, which is the Lone State, the Lone Star State. Yeah.
So, kind of, but not really. So,
Really?
Texas is the only state that used to be its own country.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so if you, there's a couple of different, and I can't remember exactly what it was, it's been too long to remember exactly what it is. I think one of the legends of the Lone Star was, you know how the colonies, they had the flag with the stars going around in a circle, and there were 13 of them to notate the original 13 colonies. And then as they added new states to the Union, they added the flag up to what we have now, which is the stars and bars with the 50
states.
the 50 flag, or the 50 stars representing the 50 states. So the idea behind that is Texas is its own country, where the Lone Star on that flag, and so that's kind of where the Lone Star legend. I don't think that's completely historically accurate. I'm sure someone will correct me and remind me of the Lone Star, how that came to be, because it's been a long time.
It's something to do with, I think, a general. It's got something to do with one button, and something to do with the button which was on its own, and he then turned it into the Lone
The seal
Star.
on his communications
Or
or
the
something.
seal on it.
He ripped a
something.
button off somewhere. So I remember someone telling you that
It
story.
is something to do with the button.
You know how they used to send mail and they'd have
Right,
a wax
and they
seal?
have that wax
And
seal.
somebody somewhere told Mom that he ripped a button off and put it in the seal and to send a communication off somewhere, and that's how it became the Lone Star State. And I don't, I'm sure if we dig through the archives of bar
It'd be interesting
telling,
to look it up again.
whiskey drinking, nights spent historically reminiscing. I'm sure there's probably 8 versions of how we got Lone Star State. But it'll be interesting to Google it and see, because I know that was the first explanation you were given.
Yeah, because I asked you and you said, I don't remember who it was.
I know who it was. It was Benjamin.
Oh, it was Benjamin.
Yeah, and
oh,
he's pretty,
okay.
Marissa knows him, he's pretty thorough in his research, and because he didn't know. And so I am...
Yeah.
So we have lots of legends in Texas.
Yeah.
So I always take everything that I hear with a grain of salt until I can
verify it yourself.
Right, and I just, at this point, don't remember. It's just been too long since I've had a Texas history class.
Or moonshine.
Or moonshine,
help you.
that too. I mean, both are equally as important.
Yes.
Yeah, moonshine. For the first time in my life, I tried that.
How'd
in
that go?
America.
Blew the back of my damn head off. I mean, sorry, that was my inside voice. It just came out. It was like gasoline in a cup. Woo. The first
Very
time.
interesting.
102% proof.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That'll take the hairs off your chest and clean. Yeah. It was like a blue. Yeah. Cleaned out my sinuses and it was just. But then they gave us some flavored moonshine, which was only about 60% proof and only. But as a sipping whiskey with flavor, it was actually, and I don't like whiskey, it was very nice. Very, very nice. So we bought some.
What kind did you get?
Surprise. Pecan,
6 different
chocolate,
flavors.
Quilter Special, which is kind of got a fruity little bit of a thing to it, and then lemon and lime.
Okay.
And how
That
you
was
drink
in
it,
Paducah.
you pour it over just a whole bunch of ice and you sip it and you let it melt,
Oh,
and
That,
it just-
that is
a
lovely.
very smooth drink. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Not something you do often at 60% proof, but. And to find out how illegal it is, still, even the equipment made to make the moonshine, you could today still get arrested for, even if you find a remnant and want to take it to a legalized licensed distiller, you're not allowed to, you can't be seen in public carrying it because it is a potentially grounds for arrest. It's still illegal. You can only make moonshine under license and whatever you call it, approved by the tobacco.
So now we
license
can
or whatever.
explain why it's called moonshine.
Because they
it
used
had
to make
be-
it under the light of the moon.
Yeah, they had to make it at night and they couldn't have any normal lighting would be seen, but the moon is there naturally, so they did it by the light of the moon. Yeah.
See, I did know that one.
That's awesome. I mean, it's about priorities.
It
We don't
really
need
is.
the history of Texas, but how moonshine came to be, I applaud you, Marissa.
Thank you. I mean, I feel like I'm living my best life.
There you go. Moonshine is an important part of, you know,
Yeah.
because this group of us, you know, we drink every night and
Oh yeah, we party hard.
we party hard.
Yep.
Where did you get that from?
Being sarcastic. I'm smart mouthing, as they would say in America.
You're smart.
Smart ass.
Smart mouthing, when somebody is
Oh, smart
is-
mouthing.
shooting back commentary inappropriately or talking back to or being a smart mouth, making smart mouthy comments, that's what I was doing.
Oh, okay.
I was- Yeah, being a smart ass. In other words. Which is really not like me.
So tell me, talking about asses and arses and backsides,
Excuse me for a moment. I'll be right back.
where does
I do not know this word.
where does the saying
I'm adopted.
where does the saying "you can kiss my ass" come from?
I don't know.
Well, I'm very interested to know how that came about.
Oh my goodness.
We'll be sure and Google that for you, and when we're off air, maybe. talk
If
about
anybody
that.
knows, put it down in the comments below.
Yeah. Part of my mother's getting to know America better history lesson. Sure, we want to know that.
Yeah, but there are sayings in every country.
Yes. Why don't you tell us one of the English sayings?
Some of the English.
Yeah, make sure they're PG, okay? Because
Oh.
Oh, you want rude things?
no, we don't want to. We don't want rude things. That's the
Well,
point.
if you do, I can't tell you because I'm not a rude person.
Okay,
How's
well,
that?
that's a relief. Okay, so tell us some of the other colloquialisms.
Don't know.
How's that for a word?
Now, with all this laughing, oh, there it is. I've forgotten what number I'm using. It's all right. I'm doing
Multitasking?
Diamond A. Yeah. You're doing multitasking. You've got to have your wits about you. If you're doing diamond painting, it'll come out very psychedelic.
And not in a good way.
That's true.
Yeah.
The other thing is the adjustment from, because America's only in America, right? But they do it. The adjustment from the whole rest of the world, including South Africa, operates on the metric system, and in America, it's all the imperial system.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness, I can't tell you how that messed me up on more than one occasion. In a
It's
not good
weird
way.
that America hasn't, because the metric is so much easier.
Is it
Divide or
though?
multiply everything by 10. I mean, it's just, it is so easy.
I think easy is relative. If you were raised with an eighth and 2/8 and 5/8, and that's easier for you than now figuring out 10 or converting.
Really.
Yeah.
So we use metric for some things,
Yes.
and then you
Mm.
learn imperial for others.
The majority is imperial. And it just messes you up.
So like when I find recipes, so like a few years ago when I was trying to make scones and
Make what?
scones.
Make what?
Scones.
Scones.
I'm Scottish, and it is a scone.
It's a scone.
It's
And
a
I'm here in the
scone.
middle to arbitrate and keep these two apart. Okay, carry on.
So a lot of the recipes I found want milliliters,
Yeah. And you like
and
it.
I'm like, I can't convert that. I'm sorry.
Was before the days of Siri and Alexa?
Yes, yes. So, so yeah, I've noticed that a lot of, like, especially recipes is what I've, found the most of, has things in milliliters and liters, and, I mean, we learn liters, but, yeah, we do cups
Well,
over here.
the conversion things are, those tables are very easily obtainable, because I find the same thing. It's what I call a foreign recipe. Instead of being in ounces and pounds, everything in South Africa is in milliliters and liters. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's one of those things that, like, because we don't have anything over here to measure milliliters and liters. You have to, like, especially go find that, because everything here is in ounces and cups.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So I had a hell of a time trying to figure out the correct measurements, converting those measurements into, ounces and things like that. And then a lot of times it doesn't convert very well.
Right. Yeah.
And that was always interesting.
To see how it altered the end product.
Yes. Yeah, I think it took me about, okay, so one of the things that I did notice is, like, when we say butter, it could be butter, it could be margarine, it could be,
Yeah.
all kinds of different.
In South Africa and England, butter is butter.
Yeah, it's cream based. It's milk. It's a milk product, and here it's like mostly margarine and things like that.
Yeah.
And so you have to like specifically look for actual cream butter. And so the first batch of, I was doing shortbread. And the first batch of shortbread, I just got the stick butter that I normally get. Well, it's margarine.
Yeah, you've got to use proper butter for.
And so,
Shortbread.
yeah, they were very not good.
Yeah.
We'll just leave it at that. They were very not good. And then so I made another batch. And that's about the time that I realized, because I thought I had measured wrong in the first batch. And so I remeasured and used the same butter, or the same margarine, I should say. And that's when I realized that's what the problem was the actual
Yeah.
margarine. And
Yeah.
so I went to the store and found actual butter.
Yeah.
And I've actually switched over to, I use the Kerrygold, which is Irish.
Yeah,
I
that's
use-
right. We got that in South Africa as well.
I use salted butter only now. I used to use, and I've got unbelievable butter or whatever it's called in the
Can't
refrigerator.
believe it's not butter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the odd thing here or there, but for the most part, I cook. We use salted butter now. That's what
Yeah.
I use.
I can make pastry with quite well with. I can't believe it's not butter.
I used to love that stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But now that you know that it's black tar before it goes into the format you get it in the store, it's like ugh.
What
Yeah.
goes into it?
Margarine, which is what that is, what we would call
Yeah.
margarine, that unbelievable butter spread, easy spread, all those things. It's a margarine,
Yes.
and it actually is literally black in big cauldrons before they
Really?
process it, and
Really?
the end product is yellow. It's disgusting.
Oh.
It's like plastic in a tub.
Oh.
Yeah. So a number of reasons. We don't eat a lot of butter or have a need for a lot of butter, but like last night I made shrimp.
Mm-hmm.
That gives it such a nice little,
Yeah.
you know, when you saute it in
So
butter.
you put butter in that.
I saute it in butter, yeah. When I saute anything, when I'm making steaks and things, I will use a very light spray and cook just to get that non-stick in a skillet, in a cast iron skillet. But
Yeah.
right at the end, before I serve the steak, I melt some butter and just put it over, and it just
Mm-hmm. It really brings up all
oh,
the
my
flavors.
goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we ate country crock growing up, which is margarine.
Yes. Yep.
And I've always thought it was real butter, but it ain't. And so I switched over about a year ago now to the Kerrygold, and I absolutely love it. It really does make a
nice
difference.
flavor, eh?
Yeah, it's got a really good flavor.
A little more expensive, maybe. A little more painful to use because it's in the refrigerator.
Yeah.
Hard, but it's worth
Yeah,
it.
it's definitely worth it.
Definitely worth it.
So I'm sure there are some. I know I have some, like English and people, and they're probably like, "What the hell are you talking about?" It's a World War thing.
Well,
the margarine and the butter. and,
During the war
There you go.
in England, everything, all the food and everything you had to live life was all rationed. And it was rationed to a given amount per person, per day or per month or per year, depending on what it was. For example, I think the ration of eggs was 12 eggs a year per person. So my father kept hens, and there was something called isinglass, which you mixed up with water in a bucket, and then you put the hen's eggs in, and it preserves them, and months later you can crack that egg open, and it's like a normal egg, and the yolk's there, and all the rest of it. Yeah.
Mhm.
I was going to say something else, and I can't
We were
remember.
talking about butter and margarine in the war.
Oh, yes, and so what you had to use instead of butter was margarine, and you were allowed more of that. So when I left England, I was only too happy to get real butter, because I never had it as a child growing up.
So did you always use it after that?
No.
Oh, well, I use butter as much as I can. I don't really
You do
like
now, but when
margarine.
we were growing up, we had margarine, probably because it
Yeah.
was cheaper with 7 kids.
Well, yes.
So butter was a treat for us growing up. But now it's the staple, and probably I would think much of my siblings as well. Butter's probably more of a staple than margarine is.
Yeah, it's so much nicer.
Yeah. Are you having coffee?
I am.
Yikes! I've had so little coffee lately that I almost it's kind of like gone back to being a treat for me. I may come and have some in a bit. I used to drink coffee most of
You're
the time.
off having tea.
Well, and I also don't want to drink all the tea because there's a limited amount, and I want to be sure you've got enough for your trip, Mum.
Oh, we can buy that.
Tetley?
We can buy that Tetley. That's not a problem. Have tea
Tetley?
as much as you want.
Tetley's.
Yeah.
Tetley.
Tetley's.
It's an English tea.
You
Very
know,
nice.
I'd get it right if I persisted.
It only took 3 of us to figure
Yeah,
it
exactly.
out.
Yeah, so that's really why I stopped.
No, you can have it if you enjoy a cup of tea. Have it, please.
Yeah, I do like.
So I'm very happy with the Tetley.
So usually if I get black tea
Yeah,
for the house, I usually get the PG Tips.
PG Tips is not bad. Yeah,
And
Yeah.
then other than that, like the Twinings, which is mostly what you can find over
Yeah,
here.
now Twinings is expensive.
but you didn't really have a lot of. There was a black tea marketed. It is a Twinings tea, but it was marketed under a black tea label, and we were doing it through the Keurig. Although I just don't think you had a lot of success with as strong a cup of tea as tea bags.
No.
You weren't a Keurig. You'll do it. We actually have plenty of Keurig tea,
Yeah.
but I just don't think that would be your first choice.
No, it's not as nice as the tea bag.
So we actually have those as an option, and we're not going to run out.
No.
But, I don't want to drink your tea, love.
It's really bad.
What was that?
Don't want to drink your tea, love.
Mm-hmm.
So, June, you said you used to be a nurse.
Well, I started training as a nurse and I had to give it up to go to Africa because my stepfather, when the war ended, like a lot of ex-soldiers and airmen and sailors, and they didn't know what to do when they left after the war. And a lot of them went to places like Africa, and because my husband was no, I'm going on to another story. My stepfather, shut up, Dom. My stepfather went to Africa as an accountant for a company that was growing peanuts in Africa to feed the world.
Okay.
It sounds stupid, but that's what they wanted to do, and it never worked out anyway. So he was there for 6 months, and he said to my mother, "You've got to come here. It's absolutely amazing," and blah, 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 and I'll look for you to come as soon as possible.
Well, and at that time, South Africa was part of the British Empire.
Exactly.
Right.
And East Africa was. It was British East Africa.
Okay.
So that's where Tanganyika and Kenya is, in East Africa. So my mother said she's not going without me. So I had to stop everything I was doing at the age of 17 and go with her. And we went to Tanganyika, and that's where I met my husband, who was a Yorkshire farmer.
So you actually met him in
And I
South
met
Africa.
him there.
No,
And
in
so
East
we
Africa.
were.
East Africa.
East Africa. He
East
was in the
Africa.
military though, Mum. He
He was out of the Air Force.
Yeah.
So he came out of the Air Force when he was demobbed,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where he went, on the farming side. So we met there and we got married, and that's it. And then of course You probably heard of the Mau Mau, and the Mau Mau was this tribe that got together in East Africa and were chopping the white people up and killing them.
No, I have not heard this story, but I'm real interested.
Yeah.
I have not heard this
So
story.
it got very bad, and we got nervous because they would attack people at night, and we lived on a camp outside the town of Dar es Salaam, which is on the coast of East Africa, 25 miles inland, and it was a camp because he was working on building the Comet stand for the East African Airways, so the Comet could land.
What is the Comet?
The Comet was in 1950-51, was the latest thing since sliced eggs in
Flying. Aviation.
flying and aviation.
Okay, so it's
So
a
it was
like
a
a,
comet,
a plane.
comet
a
plane.
small plane.
Yeah, well,
Or a
it was
large
fairly
plane.
big, yeah.
Okay.
So he was doing that, and it became. We had we lived in this camp, and there was a night watchman who built a big fire and sat in front of it. Was supposed to watching everything for us, and then went fast asleep. So it was pretty dangerous. And so we decided to move away from East Africa, and we applied to South Africa. And
Not the only country you applied to, though.
well, we applied to Canada as well, but the South African one came up, and so that was in 1954. We went to live in South Africa, and I've been there ever since.
From what I understood, you'd applied to Canada and were afraid to wait for it to finally come through. South Africa came up first, or they said to you,
Yeah, they came up
South
first.
Africa's here, we're waiting on Canada. You haven't applied, but you've got the option of going, so get out because it's too dangerous. So it's interesting. I could have ended up in Canada.
Yeah,
All of us could have, because they had 2 kids when they left East Africa. They had 2 there and 5 in South Africa. We could have ended up being
So
Canadian.
because it was Rose and then which one of the boys?
David.
David.
Rose and David, yeah.
And
Rose
we,
was 2 and a bit, and David was 4 months old.
you know, you got 2 kids and you got some
Yeah.
danger bearing down on you and your family, and you're isolated in the boondocks somewhere. If you don't know anything from anything, somebody says here's a safe passage out, you get out.
Right.
And you figure it out when you land on the other side. So, yeah, interesting.
Yeah,
So I could have been a Canuck.
been a what?
Another word. And leave
A
that for
canoe.
yours.
What's a canoe?
A Canadian.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. It's probably a specific type of Canadian that I just don't know about, but
Yeah, I wouldn't know about I just know Canadian, they call them Canucks.
yeah.
we could have
So
been-
my Canadian viewers, I know there's a few of you. Let us know what a Canuck is, like specifically.
And if I've just said a bad word on air, I'm sorry. I don't know what a Canuck is. I've heard it though.
Well, there's a hockey team named the Canucks, so
Oh, okay, well then I'm
it
safe.
can't be too terrible.
No, I'm good.
Unless they're all
Oh.
laughing at us every time we say it.
True. They're probably writing you a private message right now saying, don't let those people come back on air.
Oh, goodness. So, June, you live in Cape Town?
Yeah, Cape Town. Since 1954, except for 6 years just before my husband retired. His firm promoted him and sent him to Johannesburg, which was 1,000 miles up north. So we had to move there until he finished and he retired, and we came back to Cape Town. I didn't like living in Joburg. Cape Town is a much nicer place. It's a lovely city.
So, in Cape Town is on the coast, is that right?
Yeah, it's on the coast, the tip of Africa.
So you can go down to the beach.
Oh yeah. For 10 years, I lived in a place called Komaki, which the house was right next to the beach. We had a little walk down through the garden, and we were on the beach.
Nice. I like it.
Yeah, that was nice. So this is
So I know Dawn went to private school. Did all your kids go to private school?
no, the Rosemary, David, and Sandy went to Catholic private schools. The boy was in Salesians, and the girls were in Notre Dame. And then after that we couldn't afford it anymore, so they went to government schools. So I don't know, in England, in South Africa it's called public. In England a public school is a fancy private school, so it's...
So public school here is a school anybody can go to, and then a private school you have to like apply
Yeah.
and be accepted.
pay,
You have to pay
yeah.
tuition. Yeah.
Yeah.
I went to a combination of public and private. Chris did.
Yeah, you were at...
Chris did a combination of public and private. He did
it was
Salesians,
Holy Cross for a while, wasn't it?
Holy Rosary.
Holy
Rosary.
Rosary.
Christopher did Salesians,
yes.
Savio College for a while, and then he went to public. And the twins did St. Michael's, and then finished out in public school.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a combination for the remaining kids.
So now, were you raised Catholic, or was
No,
it just
raised
everybody went to
Catholic.
Catholic school?
I converted when I got married because I had to promise to bring the children up as Catholics. So I did that, and they were brought up as Catholics, but most of them have sort of honked away. Not to any other religion, they just don't follow it, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. Which I think is pretty common now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tell people I'm in recovery. I'll never recover.
I'm telling you that the stories you told me about some of them nuns.
They say that I'm a recovering Catholic or a recovering Baptist or I'm like, no, I'll never recover.
Oh.
That's another smart mouthy comment, Mark.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's my mom and dad like to send us to the Catholic schools, the private schools, because of the discipline.
Because?
The discipline.
Oh,
Ruled
yeah.
with an iron fist, they beat the crap out of you and, took no nonsense and took no prisoners. And if that's what your end objective is as a parent, then I think they achieved that. Together with a decent level of education, which is usually above the public schools. So those who
Yeah, it's a
finished
good
grade
level.
11 were an equivalent of grade 12 in a public school.
Okay.
So the quality and standard of education is generally a little higher over there from private schools to public. But yeah, no, I did not like school. I did not like the discipline. I did not like any of it. So I stayed at school for sport.
And what sports did you play?
Played hockey, netball, anything.
Field
that could,
hockey?
Yeah, anything that could get me out of a classroom. Did very, very well at field hockey and got to international levels. And then I ended up coaching and umpiring, just giving back. It was my life. Hockey was my life until I messed up my knee. And then I stopped. I was the first woman to receive international grading to umpire and officiate over a men's hockey game, which is a lot faster in South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so excelled, had fun, lots of good memories, but no good sporting career goes unpunished. You know?
So when you messed up your knee, did that take you out of the umping too, the refereeing?
I was able to recover and you know, for a period of time, I was able to maintain it, but it gets to a point where I migrated onto AstroTurf, and that's super intensive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's a lot harder than grass.
Yeah.
On
So,
your joints.
I just want some help.
Yeah.
Okay. 2.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah.
Just gonna stand there a bit. Don't trip on this because it's kind of sort of not as firm as it was, Mom. What are you gonna have to drink?
I'm going to the toilet. You would call
We
it
have
bathroom.
18 versions.
You're going to the bathroom?
Yeah,
I'm going to the
I
bathroom.
wouldn't worry about that. We're gonna edit all this stuff.
Are we? Because I don't think I am.
And I'm going to have some juice to drink.
All right, guys, we're going to take a break for real life. Hold on.
Yes.